The news reverberated through South Korea like a sonic boom. Martial law, declared in the dead of night. President Yoon Suk Yeol, citing anti-state activities by the opposition, had unleashed the military onto the streets. Tanks rumbled through the capital, casting ominous shadows under the neon glow of Seoul's skyline. A collective gasp, a sense of disbelief, washed over the nation. Democracy, so painstakingly won and fiercely guarded, seemed to teeter on the precipice. Protests erupted almost instantly. Students, workers, grandmothers who had once stared down dictators, they poured into the streets, a sea of fury and defiance. Their chants of democracy will prevail were a desperate plea, a refusal to be dragged back to a darker time. Fear mingled with anger. The old wounds of authoritarian rule, long buried, felt raw and exposed. The world watched with bated breath. South Korea, a beacon of democratic success and economic might, was suddenly engulfed in a crisis that threatened to unravel its hard-won freedoms. The situation was volatile, unpredictable. The future of the Korean peninsula, with all its geopolitical complexities, hung in the balance. "It felt like a nightmare," whispered Mrs. Kim, a shopkeeper whose small business sits on the edge of Gwanghwamun Square, a historic site of both celebration and resistance in Seoul. She had witnessed firsthand the brutality of South Korea's military dictatorships, the disappearances, the silencing of dissent. To see soldiers on those streets again, it brought back all the fear, all the pain. Her voice trembled as she spoke, her eyes reflecting the flickering candlelight of the makeshift memorial she had created outside her shop. Photos of student protesters, gunned down during the Gwangju uprising, stared back. A stark reminder of the human cost of authoritarianism, but alongside fear, there was defiance. "We will not be silenced," declared Park Min-jun, a university student leader, his voice hoarse from days of leading chants and organizing protests. "President Yoon's actions are a betrayal of everything our parents and grandparents fought for. We will not let their sacrifices be in vain." His words resonated with the young generation, digital natives who had grown up with the freedoms their elders could only dream of. For them, the fight for democracy was not a distant memory, but a living, breathing battle. They were armed with smartphones and social media, tools their predecessors could only imagine, and they were determined to use them to protect their future. To understand the depth of anxiety gripping South Korea, one must delve into its tumultuous past. For decades, the country grappled with military dictatorships. Park Chung-hee, who seized power in a coup in 1961, ushered in an era of rapid economic growth, but at a steep price: political repression, human rights abuses, and the stifling of dissent. Park's assassination in 1979 did not usher in democracy, but rather a succession of military strongmen. Chun Doo-hwan's brutal crackdown on the Gwangju uprising in 1980, where hundreds, perhaps thousands were killed, remains a searing wound on the nation's psyche. It was against this backdrop of oppression that South Koreans fought for and won their democracy in the late 1980s. The memory of those dark days, the sacrifices made, had been etched into the nation's soul. So when President Yoon invoked martial law, it was as if he had struck a match to a powder keg of collective trauma. The political landscape in South Korea has been dramatically altered. Citizens are expressing a mix of hope and apprehension. Some are optimistic about the potential for genuine reform, while others fear instability and uncertainty. The ramifications of this political upheaval are still unfolding, affecting every aspect of daily life. The public sentiment is a complex tapestry of emotions, reflecting the diverse perspectives of a nation at a crossroads. South Korea stands at a pivotal moment in its democratic journey. The future is uncertain, with many challenges ahead. Will the country embrace change and move towards a more inclusive democracy, or will it struggle to find its footing amid the turmoil? The decisions made in the coming months will shape the nation's path for years to come. It's a time of both great potential and significant risk as South Korea navigates this critical juncture in its history.